Going on to part 4 now of the homework. Review for the final exam or any other retake that you want to do. As you can see now, we're up to number 60, and we're finishing up a little bit of chapter 3. So we'll click on 61 and get started here. Find the equation of a line. Write the equation of the line in standard form. So step 1 would be to find what is the slope of our original line. Again, we want it to be parallel to this. So we solve for y. Transpose this, negative 5x plus 3, and now divide everything by 8, and we end up with our slope is a negative 5/8 times x, and our x value is 3, so negative 3 there. And then we have y minus a minus 1. We'll make this a plus 1. Now they want our new equation to be in standard form, and in standard form there are no fractions. So the first thing we want to do is to get rid of all our fractions by multiplying every term by 8. Keeping in mind that on this side there's just this one term, so here the 8's cancel out nicely. So we now have 8y plus 8. Now the 8 is gone, so this is going to be a negative 5x, and a negative 5 times a negative 3 is a positive 15. Now we're going to take this term over to this side where it becomes a negative 8. So a 15 and a negative 8 gives us a positive 7 on this side. So this is gone now, and this, we subtracted 8 from 15 and got 7. We're now going to take our negative 5x, transpose it to the other side, and we get a positive 5x plus 8y equals 7. Again, this was a little longer than normal, or not normal, but this is normal for this type of a problem. And we just have to match it up, and it looks like we're matching it up with letter A there. And that is correct. Okay, so apparently now we are in chapter 4, and we're asked to determine whether the given ordered pair is a solution for the system. And of course the protocol for doing this is just to substitute. So our x value is 3, so this would be 3 minus a minus 4 gives us a plus 4 equals 7. So this works in the first one. And then we go 6 times 3. This is our x value. Minus 3 times a negative 4. We're just substituting here. Equals 30. So this is 18 this becomes a positive 12, and this equals 30, and 30 equals 30, so yes, this is a yes here. And our next one, it's 63 already, is a similar example where we are to substitute a 4 and a 5 there. So 4 times 4 minus 3 times 5, does that equal 1? Well, 4 times 4 is 16. A negative 3 times 5 is a negative 15. Does that equal 1? Yes. All right, we'll try the next one. 5 times 4 plus 3 times 5. Does that equal a negative 5? Well, it doesn't look like that. This is 20 plus 15 does not equal a negative 5, so this is not. So we have a no here. So in this next one, we are doing a similar thing, and we're just checking to see whether or not these values make these statements true. And 6 times 10 is 60. Does that equal 8? No. So this is not true here. Now in this next example, we're asked to solve this system of linear equations by graphing. So whatever method you're going to use to graph, here I think a T-chart would be in order, in which we do the x and y intercept T-chart. So if x is 0 here, y is negative 1. And if y is 0, x is negative 1. So we're going to have a negative 1 there and a negative 1 there, and our line is going to be sort of like that. Now we have to then graph this other one, and we're looking for a method to do it. Now because this is even, actually a x and y intercept T-chart would work very well for this one as well. So if x is 0, y is going to be a negative 7. X is 0. We divide both sides by a negative 2. We get that. And if y is 0, x is 14. Well, 14 is way off our scale, isn't it? So we may have to use another method. So in a case like that, I would solve for y, and I transpose the negative 2y over to this side, transpose the 14 over to this side, then divided everything by 2, and then I rewrote it this way. So my y-intercept now is negative 7 right there, and my slope is 1/2 positive, so I went over 2, up 1, over 2, up 1, so it's going to intersect somewhere there. So let me put this into the graph, and we'll see if we can come up with an answer. So I put in my first set of intercepts, 0, negative 1, and negative 1, 0, and that's this line. Then I put in my y-intercept, which was negative 7 here. Then my slope was 1/2, so I went over 2, up 1, and it looks like they're intersecting right there, which is a 4, negative 5. And I have that part correct. And they're going to ask me for the y-intercept here. I use my tool. So our x value is 4 and a negative 5. And check my answer, and I have that one correct. Okay, we're going to solve this next one by graphing. And again, we're looking for techniques here. And I would suggest you give it a shot first by making your T-charts, because the numbers go into there quite well here. So here, if x is 0, y will be 0. So we have a case where we're going to need one other point for this one because it's going through the origin. So let's put a 1 here for the x. So this would be 5y. A negative 10 times 1 is a negative 10 equals 0. We have now 5y. We bring our negative 10 over as a positive 10. And we get here that y is going to be 2. So we have this set here. Then we have this. I think we can use it here. So if x is 0, y is going to be 5. And if x is 0, y is 0, x is going to be 10. So let's transfer that now to the graph. So for the first one we got 0, which was the origin, and then 1, 2. Now the next point is going to be 0, 5. So 0, 5 is right there. And then 10, 0, which is right there. And it looks like our ordered pair will be 2, 4. Okay, let's check this. So we did well on the graph. For our ordered pair, 2, 4. And we check that, and we have that one right as well. Okay, now we're asked to use substitution to solve this. Well, in substitution, we take a value. Once we solve for one of the letters, and here y equals this, and put that in the other equation where the y is. So we now have x, this x here. Now our y we're saying is 9x equals 30. So we have 10x equals 30, x equals 3. So we have one of our members of our ordered pair. Now the next thing is to find out what y is. Well, we said y is 9x. Well, 9 times 3 is 27. And that should be our ordered pair. So we'll clear this in 327. And we check our answer here. And we have that one right. Okay, so here it says use the elimination method to solve. So in the elimination method, our key was to put them in standard form. In fact, let me see. And the reason I paused somewhat and repositioned these is I saw that I was going to have to do some modification, and I want to model how to do these for you. And you have to put them in standard form. So this top one was in standard form. I had to transpose my negative 12x over to this side. And now it's in standard form. So now the next thing is you study them a little bit. Now what can I do to this equation such that these, or one of these terms, would cancel out? Well, a little modification of that is, suppose I just multiplied this equation here by 3. And I'm showing you how I'd like to see it on your blue sheets, where you have the work on the left and then the results on the right. Well, this becomes 12y plus, or I should say 12x here. I'm getting carried away. 12x plus 3y now equals 21. And you might say, well, wait a minute. This equation and the other equation are exactly the same. And if I were to multiply this by a negative 3, all these would then be a negative, and everything would cancel out, and you'd end up with 0 equals 0. Well, when that happens, and you end up with a true statement, or the equations are identical, you have, in set builder notation, that these are in fact, in essence, the same equation, and there would be an infinite number of solutions. So B is our answer here. So as we check B, and I've noticed on tests that I've just checked recently, sometimes people get that, instead of picking this, they pick C. Now, when would you pick C? We'll check this answer first. We got this one right. And you would pick C when you ended up with something like 0 equals 3. This is not a true statement. So here the lines are parallel. But when it's 0 equals 0, the lines are on top. It's the same line. So when it's not a true answer, you select the solution set is empty. They're not going to intersect. If it comes out as a true answer, it is what we just showed to you. Now, I've set these up. They're both in standard form, and they want you to use elimination. So I need to change one of the equations so that something will cancel out. And for this one, if I multiply this top equation by a negative 3, and I can see something happening here, but let's just do this part. This becomes a negative 6x. This becomes a positive 21y. And this becomes a negative 21. Now I just copy the other equation. 6x minus 21y equals 24. Now I put my line, and then I add them up. Well, this cancels out, gives me a 0. This cancels out, gives me a 0. And I end up here with a 3. So this is an example of one we just spoke of, when one side equals 0 or something, and the other side equals something different. These equations are parallel lines, and there will not be a solution. So our answer is letter C. So we give it a try here. Check our answers. And we see we have that one correct. Okay, so we're going to read this through. Hopefully you're pausing this and getting some notes and looking for strategy. So part of this is setting it up to what's going on here. Well, we're going to buy X frames. These are the large ones. So X frames. This is the number of X frames. And they were $17 each. And Y frames will be the small one, which are $7 each. And it cost us $286. And then we know that when we left, we had 28 frames. So if we take the total number of large plus the total number of small, that equals 28. So these are our two equations. Now you could use substitution, where you solve for x. X is equal to 28 minus y. And we could put that where the x is over here. And in a sense, that's one way to do it. Or you could multiply this equation by a negative 17, every item. And let's do it that way. So to save time, I worked it all out here. I multiplied each item here by a negative 17. Just copy this one here. And again, I'm modeling how to illustrate this. So here, this just cancels out, which is what you wanted to do. Here, when we add them together, we get a negative 10y. And when we add these together, or in a sense subtract, we get a negative 190. Now we divided both sides by a negative 10, we get 19. Well, if our small frames are 19, we subtract 19 from 28, and we get 9 large frames. And she bought, and that's what we're going to put in here, our 9, and this is how we got it. So let's check it out here. 9. And it says we had that one correct. Now again, you can go back, practice setting it up if that's the technique you need help with, and see if you can do it. That's when it's yours, when you work it and can get the answer. And they want the number of small frames as well. Okay, on to our next question here. I see this comes up, and I'll let you read it, pause it now, and see if you can come up with the equations. And here's what I get for the equations. So 3 hot dogs, 4 hamburgers, this. 4 hot dogs, 3 hamburgers is this. And remember, you're identifying the hot dogs as H and the hamburgers as Y, because you want to find out what X costs first. Okay, so again, take a moment, you're going to study these, and then you wonder, well, what do I do to solve it? So you're probably going to use the technique where one of these will cancel out. But you're going to have to modify both equations. So if I multiply this equation by 4 and this equation by a negative 3, here this will be a, let's just show it here, 12x plus 16y equals, and I'm going to have to use my calculator for that, and I'll do that shortly. But now for this one, Negative 3 times 4x gives me my negative 12x. See, this is what I wanted to do. And this is going to be a negative 9y. And I will use my head for this here. This is going to be a negative 33.00. So I used my trusty calculator to get this here, which was $47. And when I subtracted, this canceled out. I end up with 7y, and this is what I had when I subtracted. So y, as I divide both sides by 7, will be $2. So we said y is a hamburger. So our hamburger is $2. Well, we still have to figure out the cost of the hot dogs. So if we know that y is $2, we put that there in this equation. 3 times 2 is $6. And I subtract $6 from both sides. I get $5 here. So 4x equals $5. Divide both sides by 4. I get each hamburger is $1.25. And this checks out. But again, I'm showing the work in a clear, hopefully clear, and orderly way. Now, by the way, had I multiplied this equation by a 3, and this equation by a negative 4, the y's would have canceled out, and I would have found my hot dog first. So you have that option of going this way or that way, and eventually getting all your answers. And you need to put them in the right columns. The hot dog is $1.25, and the hamburger. If you switch them around, of course, that would not be correct because these are ordered pairs. All right, let's take a look at this one. Now for this one, it's a triangle with two sides the same length, so I'm calling those sides x. And the longer side is x plus 9, 9 more than these two sides. So our equation is 1, 2, 3, 3x plus 9 equals 105. So we're going to subtract 9 from both sides, and that gives us 96. Divide both sides by 3, we get x equals 32. So I think this would be 32, 32, and then add 9 to it would be 41. And if these all add up to 105, we are in business. So that looks good. Let's put our answers in here. They want us to do the equal sides, or 32. And the long side is 41. Put a 41 in there. Okay. Now, this is one that's sort of interesting. Let me give you some background on it. Now, as you look at this, it tends to get a little confusing, so let's start from scratch. That if this angle here is y, and this angle here is x, we know that this angle here is a straight angle, so we get the equation x plus y is equal to how many degrees? A straight angle is 180. So that's our first equation. Now, an interesting thing about angles in this geometric configuration is that if x is here, then this opposite angle is also x, and this opposite angle here is also y. So we have x there, y there. So what is this angle here? Well, this angle is x. This angle here is x, which is what this angle is. So our second equation is x equals y minus 48. So now with that in mind, it should be easy to figure out what is x and y. You're going to use substitution. So you get y minus 48, which is this x here that we're putting right there, plus y equals 180. So we add our y's, get 2y, add 48 to both sides, we get 228, divide by 2, we get our y angle is this, and we subtract that from 180, and we get x is 66. So they're asking us here for what is the y value, and for this, the y value we said was 114, and that now checks out, and the x value is 66. Got to get in that active box there. Let's see, where's my mouse? There it is. Okay. All right, we are now in actually chapter 5. And this has been rather long, so I will shut this one off and we'll do our last unit on chapter 5 later.